Welcome to Transform Transformational, a TeachBeyond podcast. I'm Kian.
And I'm Heather. We're here to explore what it means to be transformed in our own lives and how that overflows to living lives of transformational impact in our communities.
Today we get to talk to the TeachBeyond National Director of the Dominican Republic. And I have always loved the DR ever since I took a 48-hour trip there. I know I'm going to get some of these specifics wrong, but I think Spirit Airlines for their 16th year anniversary had a special sale where they were doing flights for only $16.
Whoa, that is so cheap, and also a really quick trip down to the DR and back.
Yeah, it was very quick because the catch with the $16 flights is there's only very specific flights at very specific times. So we flew in on a Tuesday and flew out on a Thursday.
Yeah.
So it was a 48-hour whirlwind with just a school backpack seeing the country.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, a really fun trip, a really beautiful country that definitely deserves way more than 48 hours.
Yeah, I actually went to the Dominican Republic back during university with other students from Grove City College where I studied. And that was actually, interestingly enough, where I learned about eyeglass prescriptions because there were a bunch of eyeglasses donated ahead of the trip and of all different prescription combinations. And then we ran an on-the-spot eye exam there and were able to give people a pair of glasses that as closely as possible match their prescription. And interestingly enough, I ended up needing glasses shortly after the trip. And so it was cool to actually know what the numbers meant because I had had a quick training on what plus 1.25 and minus 1.25 actually meant. And so that was neat. And, I loved the colors and the vibrancy of the country and the warmth of the Dominican and Haitian people that we interacted with. And I agree, it's definitely worth more than just 48 hours or a week or so in country.
I have heard about the trips where you do on the spot eye exams.
Yeah.
And that just seems amazing. The gift of somebody going from poor sight or no sight to being able to see is incredible to me.
Yeah. It actually really impacted me in spiritually understanding how we get sight when the Lord opens our eyes to truth and the reality of the gospel. And so it was really cool when I got glasses shortly after that and put them on and was like, wow, I can see things totally differently now. And they were very small prescriptions, but it still made a difference. So there is that interesting element of how much it matters to have our eyes open and be able to see.
For sure. It's something that you take for granted when you have good sight, but when you can't see something, it's very disorienting every moment of the day. Today, we get to talk to Cesar Valdez, who is the National Director of TeachBeyond Dominican Republic. Cesar did his undergraduate degree in organizational psychology and HR in the Dominican Republic and master's in school administration through University of Jaén in Spain. He is currently working towards his master's in linguistics.
Cesar has been married for 14 years and has two sons who are 8 and 12, and they live in Jarabacoa in the Dominican Republic.
Let's go over that conversation now.
Welcome to the podcast, Cesar.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. We are so excited to have this conversation. As we get started, could you tell us a little bit about what your role is currently with TeachBeyond and where you live?
Well, I'm living in the Dominican Republic right now. For those who are not familiarized, the Dominican Republic is a small island in the Caribbean. And I'm serving as the national director here in the Dominican Republic for the last 4 years. And I'm also the country director for the program Open Schools, which is it's a literacy program for teaching kids how to read and how to write. Yeah.
So what does it look like day to day to be the national director of the Dominican Republic?
Well, it's a privilege, first of all. And at the same time, it's a big responsibility because I have the role to support local projects here and to cast the vision of TeachBeyond, which is serving transformational education here in the Dominican Republic. It's a huge responsibility, but it's a blessing at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, it is so true that the responsibility and the privilege and blessing are just tied together, isn't it? That it's a big job to do, but also we're honored to be able to be a part of this work, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
If we back way up in your life, Cesar, we want to hear a little bit more about how you got to this point. So let's go way back in time. And can you tell us a little bit about your growing up experiences, maybe your early work experiences, and how that might have impacted how you got to where you are now?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I like that question. Thank you for asking, by the way. Well, about my previous experiences in life, um, it is interesting to see how God given me some forming experiences in life. I'm coming from a low income family here in the Dominican Republic, but when I was a teenager, I was like in a Catholic seminary for a few years. So in that place, I learned the value of hard work, serving others, education, to be well prepared, serving God, and all of that. Further down the road, I experienced a change in my faith at the age of 17. But by that time, those experiences were like God was shaping like my future, to put it in some way. And also, my family, they gave a huge value to education, even though my parents, they didn't have the chance to finish elementary education, but they knew the value of that. So they will, I remember as I was growing up, they were always emphasizing the value of having a good education. You have to go to college, you have to graduate, you have to do different than us. So that was, now I can look back and I can see how was that shaping my character. Oh, obviously God was doing that by that time.
That's so powerful. That your parents encouraged you so heavily into education, and that really carried you through so far, to even what you're doing today. And as you became a Christian, kind of as a teenager, how that then merged together. Can you tell us how you first saw that? How you first saw education and Christianity merging together into Christian education that you're in right now?
Well, from my perspective, I think education is one of the best tools to communicate the gospel, because in an educational setting you have the chance to influence positively the life of students, the next generation, let's say. So it's a great opportunity, and keeping in mind that teachers, they have the kids available to learn, to listen. Even in some cases, they have more chances to do that than their own parents at home. So education is the perfect tool to share the gospel, to communicate God's words, to impact the life of others. No doubt about that.
Cesar, how do you see a Christian teacher's role in the classroom when they're not explicitly sharing the gospel? Just a Christian living their life as a teacher.
Yeah, good question. Well, here in the Dominican Republic, we have the privilege that we can speak freely about the gospel in the classrooms. By the way, our constitution say that the education has the foundation of the Dominican education needs to be based on biblical and Christian principles. And that's something very particular in this country.
Mhm.
Wow.
And so we Christian educators here, so we have the chance to speak in freedom, to communicate the gospel, provide discipleship for the kids without not obstacles, even in public or private setting. But let's imagine you are, if a person is teaching in a non-Christian setting in another country, they can teach from a biblical worldview without quoting a scripture. So they, from my perspective, there will be always a place for Christian education, even though you are in the context, in a context which is not friendly to talk about Jesus Christ in public.
Cesar, can you trace a little bit of your own experience in Christian education, like formally? Tell us a little bit about the roles that you've had and what that has looked like to grow and shape your own understanding of Christian education over time.
Well, I started in my involvement in Christian education working as a school principal. That was my first uh, encounter with Christian education after finishing my master in school administration. And after that, I moved from a different city here in the Dominican Republic to work as vice principal in a bilingual Christian education. And then, since then, I've been involved mainly in the administrative aspect of of the Christian education in itself. For example, school policies, procedures, recruitment, teachers formation. That's kind of my background and my involvement in Christian education. Working in this educational, let's say bilingual educational model, I've been very blessed because one of the things more beneficial to me is that I had the chance to share with other professionals, godly people who have the same goals that I have, which is impact the life of the students. And I'm very blessed again because I had the chance to be exposed to different professional development opportunities. I have the chance to meet missionaries, being involved with different missionaries organizations, all of them related with the educational world. And that's something that I have the privilege of being uh, exposed because I'm working in the Christian educational field.
As you mentioned, rubbing shoulders and meeting missionaries. Maybe we could talk about how you first heard about Teach Beyond.
I first heard about Teach Beyond 8 years ago while I was working in a Christian school, and I met two Teach Beyond members. We were co-workers in the same school. There were plenty in a Teach Beyond school, Arbor Christian Academy, in a city 1 hour from here, from my current town, and they invited me to be part of the school board, and I accepted. That was my first contact with Teach Beyond. In the school board experience, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the well structure of the organization. But let me tell you this: f- uh, not only the structure, all the resources available in terms of a structure again, but I was very impacted positively by the life of those two missionaries, by the life of the educators involved in Teach Beyond. So that was another positive experience for me. They live the missionary life in a very uh, passionate way. They were like living a sacrificial life. They were like showing how they were being obedient to God, and that made a huge impact on my perspective about mission. So I started considering and praying, like jumping into the missionary field due to that example, that testimony that I saw in those Teach Beyond missionaries here in the Dominican Republic.
It's amazing how obedience to God, people saying yes and just walking faithfully in their own lives can have an impact on other people. And that's what you're talking about, that the faithful obedience of others then like was an encouragement to you, an inspiration to you to then think, okay, what does it look like to walk faithfully and obediently with the Lord in my own life, right? And I love how God uses those interactions with other believers to kind of spur us on in that kind of way.
I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about some ways that you have seen God transforming you since you became national director and joined Teach Beyond.
Yeah, well, one of the most interesting things is sometimes we are in a position like for leading others or for giving to others, but at the end of the day, I'm receiving more than what I'm giving. You know, being the national director makes me see the kingdom of God, the work of God here on the earth from another perspective, because I have the chance to meet many other people, different countries, different cultures, doing the same thing, pursuing the same goals, and trying to be obedient to to our God. So in a few words, I'm being transformed. At the same time, I'm trying to promote the transformation in education, and I'm very thankful that I can be the national director because of that.
It's amazing to see the community of God all working together and being constantly transformed yourself as you are doing that, as you are being able to see and be encouraged by others. I know also as your national director, you're doing a lot of other projects as well. Can you tell us a little bit about the work that you are doing with open schools?
Open Schools is a bridge literacy program which looks for provide education at a third grade level to those kids which are not attending school for many reasons, different contexts. And that's what we're doing in Open Schools. We have this curriculum well designed and we implement that. And it's very easy to implement. We started that program in faith because it's a volunteer based program. At the same time, we started here the translation into Spanish, and we finished the translation, and now we are serving around 35 kids which are learning how to write and how to read here in the Dominican Republic. Not only Dominicans, but Haitians kids as well, because we have a social demographic reality here with a very particular with many immigrants kids here which needs education. So that's kind of what I'm doing with open schools right now. Also, I'm contributing with other national directors like the Mexico national director implementing open schools in her country. So we are doing that as well.
It's so neat how the connection with the other national directors is actually bringing this connection and seeing the multiplication of the impact of this program, right? And the connections within the Teach Beyond network to see, oh, that's working there. I wonder what that would look like for that to come here, right?
Yeah, and let me add something. It is interesting what you say because this is not a work that I'm doing alone. For example, the translation we did into Spanish, I used the Portuguese version to do the translation.
Right,
And
right.
other national directors say, Cesar, I need that. I can implement that. Let's use it. You can use it.
Yeah,
So we are doing a work. We are working together. We
yeah.
are rowing together to the same direction.
Mm,
And that's something that makes me experience the kingdom of God, as I say
mm,
early in the conversation, like from another perspective.
mhm, mhm. What would you dream about seeing happen as a result of open schools coming to the Dominican Republic and then this interaction with other national directors? Like what is kind of the aim, the goal, the dream behind that?
Well, so sometimes let me put it this way. I have dreams, but I'm hesitant sometimes to share big
Uh-huh.
dreams, but let me share some dreams that I have. I can see open schools in the next 15 years in each Spanish speaking country. That's my dream in my prayer at the same time.
Mm,
Probably I will not be there, probably others will
mhm,
continue with the mission, but that's my prayer.
mm,
For this year, for 2024, our goal is to expand open school in the Dominican Republic to 5 more provinces
mm,
and at least 2 more countries.
mhm.
Those are specific goals we have in open schools.
What would that do within the Dominican Republic as you expand to other provinces and locations? What would that do? What do you envision the impact being there?
Yeah, to answer that question, I have to give you a little bit of the context because the Dominican Republic rank the last in quality of education in Latin America. And international researchers, let's say international research as PISA, 75 countries, we are 74 in quality of education. The general population, 60% of the population here, and we are 13 million, near 13 millions of inhabitants. We have a sixth grade level in average in education. So as you can
Mm,
see, there is a huge lack in the
mhm,
quality of education here. And open schools is filling a gap that exists because, for example, it's very common. You will find fourth graders they cannot read at all, and they are enrolled in the school. So open school is filling that need, and not only providing education, but providing education from a biblical worldview because
mhm,
they are changing their mindset. They are trying to they are trying to do better once they are receiving education. At the same time, they are learning about God.
Mm-hmm.
That's the need.
Mm-hmm.
Teach open schools is feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Dominican Republic's education system? Because you mentioned at the beginning that you came from a low income family, but were able to go to a Catholic school. What is the availability for education to go to school, to go to open schools versus a public school? Are those available to all kids, or is it kind of limited based on some other factors?
In the Dominican Republic, in terms of the enrollment, kids can attend school. The issue is the quality, is lack of training, lack of resources in the classroom, and educational policies are not strong enough. And we share the same reality in other countries in Latin America. But speaking about the Dominican Republic, students, they graduate from high school, but they have a very low level in in the comprehension. For example, they have the chance to attend a public university here, but the reality is that they probably will spend 10 years in having a bachelor degree. So that's the reality. Most of those students going to the public university, they end up dropping off from college. In remote areas, we have kids that they leave the school after 8th grade. And so that's kind of the composition here, and that kinds of the reality. And again, let me mention the Haitian reality as well. Remember that we are an island, the Hispaniola, and we share the island, two countries. But due to the reality there in Haiti, they have to emigrate to the Dominican Republic looking for better conditions. And that immigration brings a group kids with needs, huge needs, educational needs.
You mentioned earlier how your family, your parents had a really big focus on education and the importance of education and really wanting that. Do you see that playing into your desire to have really high quality education and that the country doesn't have it and you focusing on let's get high quality education here?
Yeah, of course, that was determinant for me because the words, the advice of my parents, both of them, resounds in my ears still. You have to study. You have to study. You have to graduate. They were with limitations in terms of economical resources. They were always like giving importance to that. And now I can compare my life with my friends when I was a kid. So we took different paths. Obviously, I have the opportunity, I have the blessing to become a Christian at a young age, at the age of 17, and that was another determining factor in my life. And yes, now I'm trying to help others to break the line of poverty. Makes sense. I'm not sure if that comes as this clear, but open school, we are trying to do that, and that is one of the most uh, exciting things we can do here. Trying to help other kids, other students like I was, like to have the chance, access, opportunity to have a different life.
And it seems like there's a need both for that, the formal school quality to continue being developed and offering quality Christian education that's in a formal school setting, as well as in these other kind of ways to be able to bring students into a formal school setting. Do I have that right?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, what we want is to teach the kids at a 3rd grade level in open schools, and then help their families to insert them in the formal educational
Yeah.
system. And by the way, praise the Lord, this month, 2 kids from open school will be starting the formal educational system.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's a huge celebration for us. We are very grateful for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And so quickly to see that growth happen, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's great. Well, I'm sure that this question could be answered in a lot of different ways, Cesar, but I'm wondering what you would tell your past self. You can pick an age.
Oh,
um,
yeah.
with the perspective that you have now, what would you say?
Yeah, that's a profound question. As if you meditate on it, but you know what? If I look back when I was a teenager, when I was in my 20s, I will just say, "Hey, Cesar, relax. God's had a plan for you. Don't be anxious about the future. Only obey me. Obey God. But just relax, learn, work, but God is in charge." Because, and I'm telling you this because in my younger ages, I was like very anxious about the future. And that's pretty normal here in a context like in my country. You are thinking in graduation, job, your future. But answering your question straight, if I look back, I can say, Cesar, relax. Just be confident in God. He has a plan for you.
I love that. I love the relax, not to not do work, but relax because it's in God's hands and
Yeah,
God's
yeah.
in control.
It's like rest in God.
Yes.
That's a more accurate phrase, right? Rest in God. Rest in God. Recently, a friend of mine, by the way, one of the person who preached the gospel to me like more than 25 years ago, he's still my friend. We are very good friends. He gave me an advice. He told me, Cesar, rest in God. Do what you are doing, work hard, but rest in God. So spend time with God. So he was encouraging me to spend more time enjoying God than trying to be an activist.
That can be really difficult when we see all these things that could be done, right? Like these projects, these opportunities. You are not without things that you're working on right now. But what does it look like for you? What are you kind of thinking about and grappling with as you consider what it looks like to rest in God, even to take your own advice of like, okay, I need to relax and not worry so much about the future. What does that look like for you in this season?
Well, I will give you a simple, short sentence. Every morning, I used to wake up and open my inbox email. Now I'm trying to open my Bible first because it's very easy to be involved in projects, to do list, what I have to achieve, funds we need, people we need.
Mhm.
Easily we can find ourselves doing missions without God, and that's a
Mm,
risk. So for me, resting God is concentrate. Me in my case, I'm trying to concentrate in spending more time with God. At the same time, I'm being responsible with what I have to do. I don't know if that explained well, but that's kind of what is happening with me.
definitely.
Yeah. I love that. As you have shared so many things that you're excited about, but I'm just curious, is there anything that you're get really jazzed about, get really excited about as you think about what God is doing in the DR in your life right now?
Well, many things, but one in particular is, as we were talking about open school, when I see a young girl or a young boy who doesn't even know how to hold a pencil, when I see that boy or girl learning how to write their name, dreaming about the future, growing the self-esteem, that's for me, that's everything for me because I know that that person will be able to read the Bible, and that's something that is, I'm very passionate about that.
Mm, that's beautiful. What you've given us a lot of things that we could be praying about here, Cesar, but what are some specific ways that we can be praying for the work of Teach Beyond in the Dominican Republic?
Well, three things you can help me pray. We are in a campaign for building a campus for Arbor Christian Academy. Pray for that. We already have the land, but we need the resources. And please help me praying for volunteers to serve here, and for others Dominican missionaries to serve through Teach Beyond. Those three prayers, I think, will be very helpful for the mission here.
Yeah, there's so many amazing ideas and possibilities, and I hear your vision for growth and seeing life transformation through the power of the Holy Spirit. And it is often like, okay, Lord, what does it look like to participate in that, to be a part of what God's doing in the Dominican Republic? And it takes people and finances and energy to make all of that happen. So we'll definitely join you in prayer for those very specific needs in
Yeah,
the
thank you.
DR for sure.
Cesar, thank you so much for talking with us. It's been such an encouragement to hear everything that God's doing in your own life and around you in these projects in the DR.
Hmm.
Before we let you go, we're going to ask one question, and that's what's changing your life right now. So it can be something big or small, something serious or light, but just what's making a difference. And I'll go first, and then you can have a little bit of time to think about it. What's changing my life this week is actually a big thing is I'm getting a new passport, which you have to renew a passport every 10 years. And we're actually hitting
Mm.
my 10-year anniversary for TeachBeyond. So I got a new
Oh,
passport when I joined TeachBeyond, going overseas to work in Germany. And it's now been 10 years with TeachBeyond with this passport. And it's kind of a big milestone to have to get a new
yeah.
Wow.
passport, start over blank.
Congrats.
But it's exciting.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah,
Very nice.
this is a good reminder. It's on my to-do list too, Kian, so got to work on that. What's changing my life lately is going to sound a little funny to you, Cesar, because of where you are in the world, but it just this past weekend we had a beautiful snowfall, and it was just like those big flakes that are lightly falling down. It's the kind of snow you want to get because it just looks pretty as it's happening. And I had decided last minute to drive home from I was away from home and to get home before the predicted snow, and so I was just very happy to be home and reading a book and watching the snowfall,
Wow.
and not driving in it. So that's changing my life lately. What about you, Cesar?
Well, for me, playing basketball with my 12 years old boy,
Mm,
learning with him, having conversation with him.
mm,
So we are kind of buddy right now, because he's
yeah,
12 years old, he's growing, and
yeah,
I'm enjoying that these moments. So that's changing my life
yeah. That's a new
for sure.
season of parenting for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is basketball new for both of you, or have you played before?
No, it's new for both of us.
Okay.
Yeah, he's trying to be more involved in athletics because he was a surgery in both feet.
Okay.
And he was 10 years old, I think.
Okay.
I don't remember well. So he wasn't able to practice that much sport, but now he's trying to be involved in athletics, because he's
Yeah.
in middle school, as you can
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
And I am in that journey with him, so I'm enjoying that. I'm hearing about his heart, his desire,
Yeah.
and I'm exercising. I'm working out at the same
Yes.
time with him.
That sounds like a lot of great things at one time. That's awesome.
Yeah, multiple benefits and blessings.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Cesar. It was great to talk with you and learn from you. And we will be praying for the work there.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
For our weekly spotlight, we are focusing on open schools worldwide, which Cesar mentioned in the conversation. There are a number of ways you could get involved with open schools. They are currently looking for people to serve with their curriculum development team in English and French, as well as a donor liaison and a communication person. To learn more, visit teachbeyond.org/go or click on the link in the show notes. It is amazing to hear people's stories. The things God is doing in people's lives never fail to blow my mind.
Kian, Cesar, and I serve with an organization called TeachBeyond. As you've heard, education plays a big role in missions, and TeachBeyond is a part of that.
As followers of Jesus, TeachBeyond is a global community providing transformational education services as part of God's ongoing mission to transform individuals and communities into all He intends.
Want to learn more and get involved? Visit teachbeyond.org or follow us on social media.
To help more people find the podcast and hear about TeachBeyond, we'd love it if you would leave a rating or review and share the show with a friend. Be sure you're subscribed or following the show on the platform where you listen so you never miss an episode.
And as always, you can reach us at podcast@teachbeyond.org. We'll see you next week.
The mystery word for this week is of.